Donald Trump's worst nightmare is here. The American people want him impeached and want him impeached now. Only 37% of Americans say he should not be impeached. Overwhelmingly, Americans say he needs to be impeached now.
So MeidasTouch just dropped a bombshell analysis on Trump's collapsing presidency during active warfare with Iran. And the polling data they're breaking down is historically catastrophic. We're talking Nixon-level approval ratings, while Trump's military leadership openly rebels. This is unprecedented territory.
At least 55% of Americans strongly believe he should be impeached. There's a 66% chance that he gets impeached as soon as Democrats take control of the House. And when you look at poll after poll, Donald Trump's approval is not only tanking, it's the worst in presidential history.
These aren't normal polling fluctuations. We're witnessing the fastest presidential approval collapse during wartime in American history. Even during Vietnam, LBJ's numbers didn't crater this quickly. When independents abandon a wartime president faster than they did Nixon during Watergate, that's a constitutional crisis.
I've reported on this before, but the latest AP NORC poll has Donald Trump's approval at 33%. It dropped 9 points since February before he launched the Iran war. Officially the worst approval really since the time Nixon resigned. And Donald Trump's approval is worse amongst independents than when Nixon resigned.
That 9-point drop, coinciding exactly with the Iran war launch, proves Americans immediately recognize this as Trump's desperate wag the dog moment. Historically, wars boost approval ratings initially. Trump's tanked instead. Even his own military brass are now publicly contradicting him on Iran's strategy.
It's the AP NORC poll, but you take a look at the state regime media known as Fox poll, and Donald Trump's approval there, only 42% on the issue of inflation. He's net negative 44 on government spending. He's net negative 34 on the economy. He's net negative 32 on the Iran war, net negative 26 on the issue of foreign policy, net negative 20 on what's supposed to be his strongest issue, immigration. He's net negative 8. This is a total disaster now.
When Fox's own polling shows Trump underwater on every single issue, including immigration, his supposed ace card, that's political death. Foreign policy disasters always cascade into domestic disapproval. Ask Carter about Iran in 1979, or Bush about Iraq by 2006.
People are also pointing to Donald Trump's own words back in 2008 when Donald Trump said that George W. Bush needed to be impeached immediately for lying about the war, the same way Donald Trump has lied about his catastrophic and unlawful war in Iran. Here, Donald Trump this is from 2008. Here's what he says. Here, play this clip.
Wonderful thing.
Impeaching him?
Absolutely. For the war. For the war.
Because of the conduct of the war.
Well, he lied. He got us into the war with lies. And, I mean, look at the trouble Bill Clinton got into with something that was totally unimportant. And they tried to impeach him, which was nonsense. And yet Bush got us into this horrible war with lies, by lying, by saying they had weapons of mass destruction, by saying all sorts of things that turned out not to be true.
That 2008 clip is political dynamite because Trump explicitly called for Bush's impeachment over war lies, exactly what he's doing now with Iran. The hypocrisy is so blatant that even MAGA voters are turning. His own words become the prosecution's opening statement.
Also, when you look at that latest Fox poll that I shared with you, 56% of voters say that Donald Trump's administration is not even competent enough to run government. It can't even function competently. You know, what's notable too about some of these polls, 1 in 5 of Donald Trump's MAGA supporters want to see Donald Trump impeached. Can I repeat that again? 1 in 5 MAGA want Donald Trump impeached. And I think that number is going to continue to grow and grow as Donald Trump continues to attack MAGA.
20% MAGA defection during wartime is catastrophic for any president. Reagan never lost his base, even during Iran-Contra. When your core supporters want you impeached while missiles are flying, you've lost all political capital. Congressional Republicans are already distancing themselves privately.
Now, when you look at Donald Trump's behavior generally, it's just lie after lie and just oddity after oddity. And it's making us so dangerous. I mean, you have people running the counterterrorism within the Department of Homeland Security. People like Thomas Fugate, this 22-year-old former Trump intern with zero national security experience. You thought it was bad enough that this guy was running national security and counterterrorism with Kash Patel at the head of the FBI. Well, now we learned about this Julie Vivaro, who was on this sugar daddy website, and she's the deputy counterterrorism official.
This administration chaos isn't just embarrassing, it's genuinely dangerous during active military operations. Having 22-year-old interns running counterterrorism while Iran controls the Strait of Hormuz is a national security nightmare. Our allies are quietly questioning American competence.
Yesterday, you had Donald Trump firing the Navy Secretary, John Phelan, during a war when there's a naval blockade in the Persian Gulf. Donald Trump fired John Phelan, his Secretary of the Navy, and it got really weird because Hegseth was the one who did the firing, even though it has to come from Donald Trump. So John Phelan, this Navy Secretary, went to the White House and was like, "Come on, are you really firing me, Donald? Are you really firing me, Donald?" And Donald's like, "You didn't build my battleships. I wanted the Trump battleships. You didn't build." Apparently Donald Trump thinks you can build battleships like in 6 months, and Donald Trump doesn't like aircraft carriers or stealth ships. He wants Trump battleships that look like the types of like clunky ships that existed during World War I. And that's what he wanted. And John Phelan wouldn't build those. So that's why Trump wanted him gone. Hegseth wanted him gone because he refused to just abide by everything that Hegseth was saying. So is there any wonder why the Trump regime, why the American people want these individuals, these vile individuals, impeached, and why they're the least popular in presidential history?
Firing your Navy secretary during a naval blockade because he won't build fantasy battleships shows Trump's completely detached from military reality. Real admirals are now openly defying orders they consider strategically insane. This is how military coups begin in other countries.
Before Donald Trump launches unlawful and catastrophic war, Iran didn't control the Strait of Hormuz. Now they do control the Strait of Hormuz. So there's that. Also, Iran has massive quantities of its ballistic missiles, Shahed drones, FPV drones, unmanned vessel drones as well. CBS reports the Islamic Republic of Iran maintains more military capabilities than the White House or Pentagon has publicly admitted, according to multiple U.S. officials with knowledge of the intelligence in this matter. And now our military is just leaking.
Iran, now controlling the world's most critical oil choke point, represents Trump's biggest foreign policy failure. 20% of global oil flows through Hormuz. That's why gas prices are spiking and why even Republican voters blame him. Strategic incompetence has real-world consequences.
All the top generals are leaking all this stuff about Donald Trump, how they want to keep him out of the Situation Room, how his erratic behavior is so disruptive to the ability to negotiate, how weak and pathetic Donald Trump is, how his erratic behavior makes it impossible to have any competent discussions with Iran because Iran's trying to get clarity. Like, what are you asking for? And you said you agreed to the 10-point negotiating framework. Now you claim you aren't agreeing to the negotiating framework. One day you're going to obliterate the civilization if we don't meet the deadline. Then when Iran refuses to meet the fake deadlines that Donald Trump sets, Donald Trump unilaterally extends the deadlines. Now there's an indefinite extension of the ceasefire. Again, Trump sets these red lines. If you don't do it by this date, I'm going to blow you up. And then the date passes and Donald Trump chickens out. And then Donald Trump says he's too scared to do the invasion, but he wants to, threaten via social media, all caps posts. And Iran knows that he's a paper tiger and that he's really terrified of a ground invasion.
When your own generals are actively leaking against you during wartime, that's unprecedented in American history. Even MacArthur kept disagreements with Truman private initially. Trump's erratic behavior has created a shadow military leadership that's essentially governing around him.
To the Iranian leaders who will soon be in negotiations with my representatives, I would greatly appreciate the release of these women. I'm sure they will respect the fact that you did so. Please do them no harm. It's frankly unclear who these women are. There are some people say the photo looks like it's AI generated. I'm not going to doubt that there may be 8 women in Iran who are in prison right now, and may be facing serious consequences, but I'm not sure it's these individuals, and it's not a death penalty sentence. And people who have looked into this have said, yeah, I'm not really sure who these people are. Regardless, most people believe this entire story is like completely fake and that there was no imminent execution. But then Donald Trump announces that he secured the deal himself to release these women. He saved the women, he says. Very good news. I've just been informed that the 8 women protesters who are going to be executed will no longer be killed. 4 will be released immediately and 4 will be sentenced to 1 month in prison. I very much appreciate that Iran saying, dude, what? I mean, Iran's doing all these like Lego videos and all these social media posts mocking Donald Trump. And Iran's like, what the hell are you talking about? You've just made up a fake story about these women. That's not true.
Iran's social media mockery of Trump isn't just embarrassing. It's strategic warfare. They're deliberately making him look weak to undermine American credibility globally. When your enemies are creating memes about your fake hostage deals, you've lost the information war completely.
In terms of Donald Trump's just sinking approval, you can see right here just how bad Donald Trump's approval is, whether it's on tariffs, and especially contrasted to other foreign leaders, how despised Donald Trump is. Let's play this clip.
Just take a look here. I mean, this just gives you the name of the game. Americans on Trump and tariff in the 2024 election versus Kamala Harris. Look at this. Trump was trusted more on tariffs by 12 points. But look at his net approval rating down. Look at that. That's an over 40-point shift away from the President of the United States. He's 48 points underwater with independents on tariffs. This is just a political disaster. And the longer he drags it out, the more and more it can hurt his political standing.
Well, it certainly hurt the economies, not just the people's pockets, businesses' pockets, but also the world. Did anyone benefit from this when it comes to like global leadership?
Yeah, the people who stood up against Donald Trump. That's who benefited from it. I mean, just take a look here. I mean, Mark Carney, obviously in Canada, look at this. His net approval rating plus 24 points. How about the president of Mexico, Claudia Sheinbaum? Look at this, plus 41 points on the net approval rating. So the people who stood up to Trump on tariffs, those are the people who benefited versus Donald Trump. When he went up against these world leaders, well, he just went right straight into the political basement.
And then I'll show you this over here. Professor Pape, renowned professor over at, I believe, University of Chicago. Here's how he describes the situation in Iran and how Donald Trump will go down as the worst president in history.
Professor Pape's analysis carries serious academic weight. He's the University of Chicago's leading expert on strategic bombing and has advised multiple administrations. When scholars of his caliber declare Trump the worst president in history, that assessment enters the permanent historical record.
This from Harry Enton over at CNN talking about Donald Trump's approval at all-time lows. And this was before the AP NORC poll came out. And as Enton goes, ruh-roh, here, play this clip.
Yeah, okay. Americans say inflation is the number one issue facing them right now. And to quote the great Happy Gilmore, according to them, the price is wrong when it comes to the president of the United States. Just take a look at these net approval ratings when it comes to inflation. The president of the United States is hitting all-time record lows in all of these polls, and all of them. NBC came out yesterday, 36 points underwater. CBS came out a few weeks ago, 38 points underwater. Ipsos, Reuters, 43 points underwater. CNN came out earlier this month, 45 points underwater. And taking the cake is UMass Amherst, 47 points underwater across all of these polls. Trump is in his worst position ever on the issue that the American people say over and over and over again is their key number one issue.
Was it always thus?
No, it wasn't this always thus, Mr. Berman. And this is what is so amazing to me. I mean, these shifts that we're just seeing, my goodness gracious, voters on Trump and inflation. In the 2024 election, remember, Trump got reelected to a second term and Joe Biden got pushed to the curb in large part because Americans felt he couldn't handle inflation. Trump was more trusted than Kamala Harris on inflation by 7 points. Look at his net approval right now. You average all those polls on the first side of your screen, 42 points underwater. That is a nearly 50-point shift away from the president of the United States.
A nearly 50-point shift. That's bad. What's worse?
Yeah, what's worse? You think this is bad, a nearly 50-point shift. How about a 70-point shift? I'm laughing because you never see numbers like this. Look at this. Independence on Trump and inflation. In the 2024 election versus Harris, Trump was favored by 10 points. Down he goes. Down he goes. He's down to 60 points underwater on inflation. That is a 70-point shift in a little bit less than 2 years worth of time.
There you have it, folks.
Harry Enton's CNN analysis came before the latest catastrophic numbers, meaning Trump's trajectory is actually worse than even these dire projections. With midterms approaching and his approval still falling, Republican candidates are facing an electoral extinction event.